My in-laws beat me to the ground and kidnapped my baby after I got into an argument with my mother-in-law, so I called the police, and now my wife is begging me to drop the charges before her brother gets beat by the law. Posted by you/throwaway_bruisedigo. I, 33M, met my wife, 33F, in college. It was a long-term physical relationship that turned serious at the end of our senior year. After graduation, I didn't have any plans, so I decided to move to her hometown, a major southern city. I didn't know anybody, so we were together 24/7 and moved in together within a year. During this time, I met her family a few times. She had a huge extended family where her mom, Sharon, was the matriarch. Her dad died in a workplace accident, and her mom received a lot of money. She was smart, invested it well, and is doing fine financially. All of Sharon's siblings and nieces/nephews look to her for advice on all major life decisions. She's paid for school, weddings, and helped start businesses. My wife has 2 brothers, whom I always got along with. We would hang out independently of my wife a few times a year. We got married after 3 years, and when my son was born, Sharon bought us a house 3 blocks from hers. We had been living in a downtown loft-style apartment, and honestly, this was a relief. But with the house came Sharon constantly being in my life, coming into the house unannounced, giving unsolicited advice, and making snide remarks at my expense. Eventually, 18 months later, we had a blowout fight, and I moved my family across town to an apartment. My wife was pissed, and our relationship deteriorated. Sharon hates me and has turned most of their family against me. I didn't attend any of her family events for over a year. My wife still saw her family, but because I wasn't invited and they were over 30 minutes away, it was much less frequent. Sharon went from seeing her grandson almost every day to once a month, which made her hate for me go through the roof. The incident. My wife had to work, and I was asked to take my son to his cousin's birthday party. The party was at Sharon's house, and if it hadn't been for my son's first cousin, who is only 6 months apart in age, I would have said no. It was tense the moment I walked in. The father of the birthday boy, my brother-in-law, greeted me, but no one else spoke to me. I didn't mind and sat in the corner on my phone. This apparently pissed off Sharon because she thought I was being rude. An argument ensued, and I announced that I was leaving with my son. Sharon said, "You can go, but my grandbaby is staying." At this point, I lost my cool and started cursing her out. I woke up on the front lawn. Apparently, my 2 brothers-in-law beat the hell out of me in front of my kid. 2 of her cousins were helping me up and told me just to leave. I immediately called the police and reported that I was assaulted and that my child was kidnapped. The police arrived, and both brothers were arrested. Sharon lost her crap on the police, and my wife arrived as her mother was being arrested for refusing to release my son. Her mom was eventually released, but her brothers were arraigned on assault charges. The father of the birthday boy had a prior assault charge from college, so he is facing serious consequences. My wife is mad at everyone but asked me to drop the charges. I not only refused but also got restraining orders against all 3 of them. Her mother is no longer allowed to be near our child, and her brothers have court dates early next year. Last month, my wife moved out of the house, and we are now headed for divorce. Yesterday, she came to me with one last offer, for us to move to another city and start over, but only if I drop the charges against her brothers and remove the restraining order on her mom. I told her I would think about it, but I believe I'd rather get divorced. I honestly want to keep my family, but I don't believe she'll ever abandon her family for me. If I drop the charges now, I doubt I could bring them back later. Am I wrong for not trying to save my family? Edit. This blew up overnight. My wife's cousin DM'd me because she found it. She was there that day and told me to add some more context because her family is getting railed in the comments. She's right, so here are a few more things. I don't think anyone is evil in this situation. Everyone loves Sharon and her advice except me. She's not a mean person, but we are polar opposites in many ways. My wife is the baby and only girl, so I'm sure that has a lot to do with our conflict. Sharon losing her crap on the police was uncharacteristic, and even I was surprised. My wife is a great mom and partner, but her inability to be independent of her mom's influence is our issue. She is mad at her brothers and isn't talking to either of them. She's also mad at her mom for starting the argument and refusing to release our son. She's just trying to find a middle ground. I genuinely think she hopes a fresh start can save our marriage. Until we moved into that house, I would say our relationship was good. As far as her brothers and the assault, I remember the first hit, but I was dazed immediately. The last thing I remember was flailing like a child while getting hit a few more times. What I don't remember is my kid screaming to stop hitting my daddy and then picking me up and dropping me on the lawn like trash. I have to acknowledge that my pride hurt more than my bruises. I genuinely liked both her brothers, and to be fair, F you and Beach came out of my mouth when I cursed out Sharon. I'm not 100% innocent. This is the South, so the police even said, "What did you expect to happen?" I don't know if stopping pursuing this would prevent it from happening again or not. Relevant comments. Commenter. Pressing charges isn't a thing, the state decides. Ops response. I just want to comment on this because it keeps coming up, you are 100% right. In the initial confrontation, the cops asked if I wanted them arrested, and I said yes. I was more bruised than bloody, and they were willing to let it go as a family dispute. That's where the "what did you expect to happen" conversation came from. I'm not pressing charges per se, but I'm not letting it go. I've done 2 interviews with the police and have been fully cooperating. If I stopped, they might drop the charges because they seemed more annoyed than helpful. I doubt the younger brother will get more than a slap on the wrist. My wife's oldest brother, who has a prior, is in a lot more trouble. He's the one everyone is worried about. Also, Sharon never went to jail. When my wife arrived, Sharon was being escorted to a car. My wife and her 2 uncles got Sharon to calm down, and they let her go. She wasn't being violent but was cursing and blocking them from entering the house. The only positive thing about the arrest, and Sharon's almost arrest, was that it made getting a restraining order way easier. But even that took a month. Also, I had never talked to a lawyer, for any reason, or had any trouble with the police. I honestly don't know how any of this works. I just found out the difference between parole and probation a few weeks ago. Commenter 2. Sharon is not a good mother. Her habit of buying everything for everyone is robbing her grown children of their own achievements, which build character, mental toughness, maturity, and pride in themselves. A better parent would have matched their savings for down payments. Obviously, there was a price to be paid for her investments in their lives. She is able to make major decisions for them. She can walk right in like she owns the place, because she does. It sounds like she is an overbearing, iron-fisted, suffocating presence in their lives. Ops response. I keep feeling like I'm defending this woman, and trust me, I'm not. But she started flipping houses in the 90s before it was a thing. She always kept her job as a nurse while investing in new properties. She helped both of her brothers start their own construction businesses, and 5 of her nieces and nephews now work in real estate. Her 2 smartest moves were: 1, she was an early iPod user from her time as a nurse and invested heavily in Apple stock in 2002, and 2, she pulled out of big real estate investments in 2006, a little early, and sat on her money until 2010. Then she bought up a ton of property. The woman is smart and accomplished, so everyone sees her as this messiah of wisdom. When she deemed me a jerk for not wanting her in my house constantly, and then an even bigger jerk for moving my family across town, everyone fell in line. If Sharon thinks he's bad, he must be bad. Update 4 months later. I've been wanting to write an update and answer questions for a while, but after my original post, many Reddit lawyers reached out and told me to stop talking immediately. Since things were very uncertain and my divorce wasn't settled, I decided not to respond or update anything until things calmed down. A lot has happened to so many people involved, so I think I'm just going to break it down by person. Me. I moved back to the West Coast, where I am originally from. I decided to move forward with the divorce, so I moved home. Furthermore, I had nothing left for me in that city, as I only had a few friends, my son, and a lot of bad memories. My ex and son cried a lot the day I left, and that hurt my soul, but it was best for all parties involved. So, I moved back home to be around my family and my support system. I got a good paying job, and I'll be subletting a 2-bedroom apartment starting next month. My son spent the holidays with me, staying with my parents, and I plan to see him on Easter. Going forward, as laid out in our custody agreement, my son will stay with his mother until he is 12. I'll get him for Easter and summers, and we'll switch Christmas and Thanksgiving every year. When he's 12 and needs a father figure, he'll come live with me until he is 18. I talk to my son every day on the phone for at least an hour, and I'll try to fly out there a few times a year. I can't shake the feeling that a piece of me is missing, and I wish it was just my son, but I miss my wife too. My ex-wife. So, the divorce is basically settled, and I obviously didn't move away with her. In the end, she saw my post and the comments and realized that she shouldn't have asked me to stop pursuing the case. She asked again, saying we could move and just get away from her family. Too much had happened, and our relationship was a shell of what it once was. We both said and did things we forgave but can't forget. I wish this were a movie and I could just say, love conquers all, or screw her, she is evil, but that isn't real life. I'm torn between both loving this person and knowing we aren't right for each other. While she didn't want to move forward with the divorce, she didn't fight me on it either. We were able to settle everything without lawyers and only use them for paperwork and fine details. We talk daily because of our son, and she says she is doing well, but the last time I FaceTimed her, I could tell she isn't eating. My sister said it's post-breakup hotness, whatever that means, but she looks more sick than hot. She hasn't spoken to her brothers since that day and blames them for a lot of what happened. Her relationship with Sharon is also very strained, and they barely talk as well. Ironically, she is hardly speaking to the family she was so desperately trying to keep together. I honestly wish she would talk to her family again because I worry about her a lot. People were very mean to my ex-wife, saying she was a terrible mother and wife. I think she lives for and would die for her family, and all her actions were to keep us together. She told me her 2 biggest regrets were moving into Sharon's house and moving out of our apartment. Those 2 actions caused most of our problems. She is a great mother to my child, and I will always have her back. The brothers. I didn't expect much in terms of punishment in this case. They both pleaded guilty to simple assault, which only carried minimal consequences. Both brothers spent a night in jail, received fines, and were ordered to attend anger management. The older brother had a prior incident that I mentioned in an earlier post. It was a bar fight in his early 20s, where he hit a guy with a bottle and was charged with assault. Since that case was over 15 years ago, and he's now married, a pillar of the community, etc., he was given probation for a year, and that was the end of it. Both brothers have partners in life, and the older one is married. I've known his wife for many years, and we've always been friendly. Because of the restraining order, both spouses reached out on behalf of the brothers to speak to me. I barely knew the younger brother's girlfriend, but since I knew the wife, I spoke to her. She said both brothers regretted their actions and asked me to lift the restraining order and not pursue charges. We had a brief conversation, but I simply told her that I don't forgive her husband and brother-in-law, and I'm moving forward with both. As we ended the conversation, I told her not to call me again, and I haven't heard from either brother since. I don't know anything beyond what my ex tells me, and she isn't speaking to them. Sharon. So, I did have it out with Sharon, and it went about as well as you can imagine. Here's a little backstory on our relationship. Let's start by saying my ex and her family are devout Christians who go to church weekly. I'm a lapsed Catholic who goes to church 3 times a year. I live a very moral and ethical life, but my belief system isn't centered on the church. Furthermore, I consider myself a moderate liberal, while her family are moderate conservatives. For example, I support the Second Amendment, and Sharon supported gay marriage. Ideologically, we were far apart but agreed on the important things in life. The real problems began when my son was going to be baptized. My mom wanted him baptized Catholic, while Sharon wanted him baptized Protestant. Lots of snide remarks about Catholics were made, but I let it go at the time. My ex and I decided to wait and let our son decide, which Sharon hated. When my ex started going back to church and I wasn't in attendance, that further widened the divide. Her family would go to Sharon's or someone else's house after church for lunch or dinner, and I either showed up later or not at all. Every time Sharon didn't agree with the decision we made as a couple, especially regarding our son, she would start leaning on my wife and pressuring her behind the scenes. We would literally make a decision, and she would go to her mom's house and then come back with a different opinion. The most frustrating part was that she stopped trying to talk to me at all. She would literally just call my wife and get her to change her decision. The big fight that led to us moving out happened when my son wanted to play soccer instead of football, but my wife's family is a huge football family. We agreed that he wouldn't play football because he didn't want to, and we had concerns about CTE. One day, my wife came home and did a complete 180, saying she had signed him up for football. We started arguing, and Sharon came into the house unannounced and joined the conversation, saying, "We decided it would be good for him." I got pissed and told them that Sharon was not my son's parent and that my ex shouldn't be so weak when her mom pressured her to do something we had already decided against. Then she said the words that sealed the deal: "My opinion should matter." I bought the house. That night, I started looking for a new apartment and never looked back. When we talked, neither of us raised our voices, but it wasn't a nice conversation. I started by apologizing for calling her a bitch, and she apologized for trying to keep my son without my permission. She flat out told me she wished my daughter had never met me and that I'd ruined her family, that her sons now have criminal records, one already did, and it's all my fault. She then started crying about not seeing my son and how she lost her only daughter. I told her she was manipulative and used her money to control the family, and that the only reason she didn't like me was because she couldn't control my decisions like she could with her weak-willed family. I also told her that she consistently overstepped her bounds regarding my child and marriage, and she put her own selfish interests ahead of her daughter's happiness. After spending an hour calling each other jerks in different ways, we ended things in the same place. In the end, I told my ex that her mom could see my son because Sharon loves him unconditionally, and he loves her. Call me stupid, but I think family is a big part of your upbringing. My mom isn't around him enough, and every child needs a good grandma. My ex said she has attended a few family events that were hard to avoid: weddings, funerals, Thanksgiving, but she leaves when her brothers come, and my son doesn't leave her side. Sharon has seen my son, and he has played with his cousin, the birthday boy from the original story, but for now, she's keeping him from the family. My son. He's having a hard time with everything. It's not the fight, he thinks we were wrestling. He misses me a lot and cries during some of our phone calls. He's in therapy, and all the sessions are about missing his dad and why we can't live together. It's been a few months, and it's slowly getting better, but we ruined his childhood, and I take my share of responsibility for that. The cousin. She is my wife's first cousin, but they are more like sisters. Sharon is her aunt by marriage, and she was the first to warn me about the family. She was also eviscerated in the comment sections for having me add to the story. She told me I was out of line for calling Sharon a bitch but didn't feel I deserved to get beat up. Likewise, she grabbed my son when the fight happened and took him away. She was the one who told my son we were wrestling, and she called my wife to come immediately. When Sharon was being handcuffed, the cousin came outside holding my son. I told her to give him to me, but she pointed at my swollen face and asked if she could hold him. I trusted her enough in that situation to care for my son, so I respected her enough to add those details. She didn't deserve the hateful comments either. Conclusion. In the end, everyone in their family read the original post, but due to the divorce and assault cases, no one directly contacted me except my ex. It wasn't a hit, to say the least, but I only care that it hurt my ex's feelings. I think seeing everything written out from my perspective opened her eyes. Obviously, some things were left out, and broad strokes were used to explain complex situations. In the end, she said I didn't lie, but she thinks I painted her family in a horrible light. We considered writing a joint update, but we aren't communicating enough to make that happen. I told my ex about this post and asked if she wanted to read it before I posted it, and she told me to write whatever I want. Nobody won here, we all lost. I'll try to respond to questions I think are relevant. Relevant comments. Commenter. I understand everything else, but did you really have to abandon your kid? Ops response. I knew I would get destroyed for this, but abandon is a strong word. I didn't abandon my son, I left for better opportunities in life for both of us, both mentally and financially. My chosen profession has more opportunities here. I was only there for my wife and child. My career picked up during the pandemic because I could work remotely, but in-office work is becoming mandatory again. I was already going to have to quit or move companies, so the timing was right. Also, my mental health is 10 times better now that I have left the city. For months, I gave my child fake smiles while trying to be a good father. I was a shell of the man I wanted to be. I'm still broken by what happened, but I'm in a better place mentally, and in the long term, I'll be better off financially. Adding more context in a different comment to the same question. I was responding to something else you wrote, but saw that you responded to this. Your assessment of my situation is understandable, but me working for less money and being constantly unhappy isn't good for my son. If I could have stayed in state, trust me, I would have, but the economy is screwed. I used all my savings to continue paying bills and lived with my parents for free to start over. Maybe I could have found happiness there, but I didn't see it happening. We are co-parenting the best we can. Commenter 2. Children don't need a father figure until they are 12 and stop needing their mother at 12? Ops response. Of course, a child is always better off in a two-parent household. We are now on opposite sides of the country, and as parents, we decided that having him split his year wasn't a good idea. Her brothers and I both started being rebellious at 12, so we decided that he needed to live with me full-time at that age. Commenter 3. Dude, I'm sorry to break it to you, but children would prefer a broke and unhappy dad over a dad living thousands of miles away, every single time. And as someone with older children, trust me, work won't make up for not seeing your son grow up. I would honestly try to swallow your pride and reconcile with your wife, who is clearly missing you badly, and suggest that you all move out to the West Coast. You will have plenty of opportunities to do so when you fly back, and this doesn't need to happen immediately. Ops response. Reconciliation isn't in the cards. Sharon was the root of many problems, but not the only one. Broad strokes over complicated issues. I wasn't broke, I was broken. My son deserved better than what I was giving him. Only time will tell how this turns out. If things go downhill, I would move back in a second, but I think this is my best decision for right now.